Now let us come into another main topic called political executive. What is political executive? At different levels of the government, we find functionaries who take day-to-day decisions but do not exercise supreme power on behalf of the people. These functionaries are known as the executive. They are called executive because they oversee the execution of the policies of the government. They are not mainly for policy making, but they overcheck on the execution of the policies that are being made by the government. So let us see the types of executive. First, we'll be dealing with the political executive. What is political executive? It is one that is elected by the people for a specific period. Okay, so it includes political leaders, that is the decision makers like the president, the prime minister, the council of ministers. The minister decides the overall framework and objectives on which policy decisions will be made. So let's see that this is the temporary executive because ministers can be changed. We have the second type of executive that's called the permanent executive. So let's go ahead and see what that is. So it includes persons working in the civil services. Civil services has civil servants who are appointed on a long-term basis. So these civil servants are appointed irrespective of any political, ruling party or any political background because they're clearly chosen on the basis of merit. So they work under the political executive and carry out day-to-day administrative work. So they are the permanent lot and the political executive is a temporary lot. So first, let's deal with one of the major subtopic of the political executive, that is the Prime Minister and the Council of Ministers. Prime Minister is the most important political institution in the country who is appointed by the President. The President appoints the leader of the major party or the coalition of parties that commands a majority in the Lok Sabha as Prime Minister. So who exactly is the Prime Minister? He is the leader of the majority party or the coalition party that has been formed in the Lok Sabha. In case no single party or alliance gets a majority, the president appoints the person most likely. This is the most important word here, most likely to secure a majority support. The Prime Minister does not have a fixed tenure. He continues in power as long as he remains the leader of the majority party or coalition. After the appointment of the Prime Minister, the President appoints other ministers on the advice of the Prime Minister. So first the Prime Minister is appointed and after that the other ministers are appointed on the basis of the advice of the Prime Minister. The Prime Minister is free to choose ministers if they are members of Parliament. Sometimes a person who is not a member of Parliament also can become a minister, but for a certain amount of time. Ultimately, he has to become a member of the Parliament, but he can also become a minister without being an MP, but he has with a certain amount of time being around 6 months. So within 6 months, he has to be made the MP in order to continue as the minister. So let's go ahead and see the Council of Ministers. What is the Council of Ministers? It is a body that includes all the ministers. It usually has 60 to 80 ministers of different ranks. Parliamentary democracy in most countries is often known as cabinet form of government. Why is it called the cabinet form of government? Because most decisions are taken by the cabinet. Each minister must own up to every decision of the cabinet, irrespective of their opinions. So what is a cabinet? Cabinet is a group of around 8 to 15 ministers which are also a part of the Council of Ministers. The cabinet has, as a team, is assisted by Cabinet Secretariat. This includes, what does Cabinet Secretariat include? It includes many senior civil servants who try to coordinate the working of different ministries. Like you can see, this is the PM, this is the Cabinet. This is a closed group of working of the government. So let us entirely see how the scenario works. We have the Council of Ministers who come under the Council of Ministers. First we have the Cabinet Ministers. So they are the top level leaders if the ruling party in charge of a large ministry. They are the top level leaders. So they are the inner ring of the Council of Ministers. That's around 25 members. Then we have Ministers of State with independent charge. So they are in charge of a smaller ministry, not like a big ministry. So they participate in the cabinet meetings when they are invited. Then we have the Ministers of State, also NOS. They are attached to and required to assist cabinet ministers. So this is the entire hierarchy of the Council of Ministers. So let us see the basic powers what a Prime Minister of a country has. First, Prime Minister controls the cabinet and parliament through the party. He exercises general supervision of different ministries. All ministers work under his leadership. The Prime Minister distributes, redistributes work to the ministers and also has the power to dismiss ministers. When the Prime Minister quits, the entire ministry quits. That is when the government falls. Within the cabinet, it is the Prime Minister who is the most powerful, and hence it's also called the prime ministerial form of government. He chairs cabinet meetings. He is the chairman of all the cabinet meetings, and he coordinates the work of different departments. His decisions are final in case disagreements arise between departments. So his word is the final say. Now let us go ahead and see the president. So who is the president? He is the head of the state. It's also called as de jure rule, that is authority that is based on law. That's also the nominal executive. It's called a nominal executive because the president is not directly elected by the people. The prime minister is called the head of the government, that is de facto rule. That is, he is the real executive because he is ultimately chosen by the people itself, and hence he has the ultimate authority in all his say. In India, the head of the state exercises only nominal powers, like the Queen of Britain, whose functions are usually ceremonial. The president supervises the overall functioning of all the political institutions in the country so that they operate in harmony to achieve the objectives of the state. So who is the current president of India? It's Ramnath Kovind. This is the list of all the past presidents. You can take a look at it. So let us see how the president is elected, the mode of election. The elected members of parliament, that are the MPs, and the elected members of the legislative assemblies of the state, that is the MLAs, they elect the president. Hence, it's an indirect election and he is not directly elected by the people. So let us see the role of the president. All laws and major policy decisions of the government are issued in his or her name. All major appointments are made in the name of the president. What kind of appointments? Appointments like Chief Justice of India, judges of the Supreme Court and the High Court of the states, governors of the states, election commissioners, and ambassadors to other countries. All international treaties and agreements are made in the name of the president. The president is the supreme commander of the defense forces of India. Let's take a note, a small quick note. The president exercises all the powers only on the advice of the Council of Ministers. The advice given by the Council of Ministers is binding on the president after the first reconsideration. So what does this mean? So any decision or any power that the president has to execute has to be on the advice of the Council of Ministers. So first say when the Council of Ministers advise a president on something and the president disagrees, he asks the Council of Ministers to further reconsider the decision. After that, if the Council of Ministers give a certain kind of advice to the president for the second time, the president has to consider it and he has no other go or say.